In this video, we're going to work on examples 12.1 and 12.2 from your book. If you'd like to follow along, open the Chapter 12 classwork.xlsx workbook from My Courses and click on the EX 12.1 worksheet tab. In example 12.1, what we're going to do is we're going to insert some kind of risk and some kind of a random nature into our outsourcing decision model. So right now our total manufacturing cost is based on the fixed cost, the variable cost, and the production volume. And our purchase cost is based on the unit cost and that same production volume. So if it costs more to manufacture than it does to outsource, the best decision would be to outsource. If it costs more to purchase than it costs to manufacture, the best decision would be to manufacture. So the model's already set up. What we're going to do is we're going to insert some variability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on cell B12, the production volume, and we're going to see what happens when the production volume changes. So I'm going to click Formulas, and then in More Functions, I'm going to click Statistical, and then I'm going to scroll down until I see norm.inv. So norm.inv gives you the inverse of the normal distribution, so it'll give you a number from the normal distribution given a probability, a mean, and a standard deviation. So I'm going to click norm.inv. First it's going to ask for the probability. In the probability I'm going to type RAND, open parentheses and close parentheses. Notice the answer is volatile. It's going to give me a random number between 0 and 1, which gives me a random probability. Now in the book they said that our mean production volume is 1,000, so I'm going to enter 1,000 without the commas, not without zeros, without the commas, and then the standard deviation is going to be 100. Now I'm going to click OK. And normally I can just click F9 and see this recalculate, but F9 actually does something with my Camtasia. So in the Formulas tab, in the right hand group we see a calculation, and every time I click Calculate Now, we're going to get a different production volume, a different cost difference, and possibly a different decision. So we can see here that I keep changing every time I click Calculate Now. The production volume is changing, and this worksheet is very slow because I have a lot of volatile functions in there. Now let's see how we can use this, but first, before that, we notice that our production volume becomes a decimal. If we'd like to make sure that our production volume is always a whole number, I'm going to replace that formula. So in cell B12, I'm going to type equals round, and then open the parentheses, so it rounds a number to a specified number of digits. So I'll round it to 0 digits. Now in here I'll put in the norm.inv. So after I open the parentheses in the round, I'll type norm.inv, open the parentheses, so I have my 3, my probability is my rand, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma, I'm on the mean 1000, type a comma, I'm on the standard deviation 100. Now I'm going to close the parentheses for the norm.inv function. Now notice I'm back in the round function. So I type a comma, I'm in the num digits, I type the number 0, I close up the parentheses and I hit enter. And now my production volume is always a whole number every time I click Calculate Now. Now let's move on to how to use a data table for Monte Carlo analysis. So I'm going to click the EX 12.2 worksheet tab, and you're going to notice that in cell B12 I've already input the round and the norm.inv function in there for you. So we can just concentrate on creating the data table. So if you remember what we need to do from chapter 11 for data tables, in row 2 we're going to put the formulas in columns E, F, and G that we want to display in our data table. So in cell E2, I'd like to know what production volume is used. So in cell E2, I'm going to type equals and then click on cell B12. Now in cell F2, I would like to know that cost difference. So in cell F2, I'm going to type equals and then click on cell B19, the cost difference, and hit enter. And finally, for each one of the options, each one of the trials, I'd like to know what the decision is. So I'm going to click in cell G2 and I'm going to type equals and I'm going to click on cell B20, that best decision. Now I'm going to hit enter. Now before we create our table, I'd like to change those headers. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like to click on cell E2. We're going to click the Home tab. In the number group, we're going to click the down arrow on the bottom right-hand side and bring up the Format Cells dialog box. Making sure that you're on the Number tab, I'm going to click Custom. Where it says Type in that box, I'm just going to backspace over whatever is there, and I'm going to type double quote, volume, and then close the double quote. That way I'm not going to confuse that with a number. Now I'm going to do the same thing for cell F2, but I'm just going to call that the difference. So I'm going to click on cell F2, making sure that I'm still on the Home tab, Number group, down arrow in the right hand side, click Custom on the left hand side, just backspace through whatever is there in the type box, and this time I'm going to type a double quote, and this one I will just call difference. And then I'm going to click OK. Notice that didn't change the content. The content is still B19. I can't type the word difference because I need that formula in there. And finally, in cell G2, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So Home tab, Number group, down arrow in the right hand side, Custom, making sure that you're on the Number tab, Custom, just backspace through whatever is there in type in the type box, and this time double quote decision, and click OK. Well, that last one didn't seem to work for some reason. Anyway, let's create our data table. So I'm going to select the range D2 down to G22. So I need to include the titles, but not the words Monte Carlo simulation. Very important that I include the formulas in the top of columns E, F, and G. Now I'm going to click Data. In the Forecast group, I'm going to click What If Analysis and Data Table. Now this is very important. I'm going to click in the column input cell. I don't want it to recalculate any number from the trial number, not from the column. What I want it to do is just basically hit calculate now each time. So in the column input cell, I'm just going to click any blank cell within the worksheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click cell I1, which is a totally blank cell not used in any formula, and when I click OK, it's going to give me 20 different volumes, 20 different differences, and 20 different decisions. So I'm going to click OK. And notice how I now have 20 in my 20 trials. I have 20 different volumes, 20 different differences, and 20 different answers. So what I can do is I can take the average of all of the differences. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click in cell E24 and I'm going to type equals average, open the parentheses, and I'm going to take the average of column F. So I'm going to make sure not to include row 2, the column header. I'm going to start my average from F3 down to F22. Close up the parentheses and hit enter. And my average difference is negative 157.5. Now, if we want to see what the percent of outsource and manufacture is, I'm going to click in cell F25 to see what the percentage of outsource is. So I'm going to type equals count if and open the parentheses. The range that I'm going to count, G3, make sure you don't include the header, G3 down to G22. Now I'm going to lock that down because I'm going to copy that down. So I'm going to hit my F4 key to use my dollar signs. Now, comma, my criteria is going to be cell E25, the outsource. Now that's only going to tell me how many there are. So I'm going to close up my parentheses for the count if, and I'm going to type a / to divide by, and then I'm going to count the number of trials. I know it's 20, but I just want to count, so I'm going to count from trial 1, D3, down to D22, the same range. So notice that my count if is G3 to G22, my count is D3 to D22, and again, because I'm going to copy that down, I'm going to hit my F4 key to lock down that range, use the dollar signs, close up my parentheses, and hit enter. And we can see that my percentage outsource is 55%. And now I can copy that formula down to manufacture. And notice, because it's a volatile function, it changes. So I now have 0.7 and 0.3. And now what I can do is I can go to my formulas tab, and every time I hit calculate now, I'm just going to get a different answer and different percentages, so I can just keep looking and see whether most of the time it's more towards outsource or more towards manufacture.